Hello there, I'm Lindsay Dunn, here for one of my stories, breaking down the first part of Stranger Things Season 5. Joining me today is my dear friend and fellow NC film critic and Southeastern film critic. Some call him Flixfrog, I call him Harrison Martin. Hello, Harrison.
Hello, Lindsay. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, welcome back to one of my stories. It's been a hot minute since you've podcasted with me. It's been about a year since we chatted about NC Film Critic Award nominations. But 3.5 years ago, in June and July of the two of us, along with Daryl Mansell, did a season 4 Stranger Things recap, releasing in a part 1 and a part 2 that matched the release schedule of the show. It's now on the podcast for people to listen to if they want to hear how right you were about season 5, Harrison.
It's been so long, I don't even know what I said.
We'll get there. We'll get there in a minute. But you made 2 pretty big predictions that came true. So it's pretty impressive. But Harrison, we're going to talk about season 5, the first part. I want to start off by just asking what your overall impressions of this first part of the final season.
I enjoyed part 1. I think the first 2 episodes are not, I want to say they're a little bit slower, kind of thrown right into it, what the Hawkins gang is doing, what the military is doing. And then there's like a buildup that starts kind of at the end of episode 1, keeps going. But by the time you get to episode 3 and 4, and you get to that ending of 4, I was like, it was worth it. This was perfect, a perfect cutoff. We'll have a little break before we get to volume 2. But I think the Duffer Brothers, I think they did a good job.
Right. I was just wondering what was going to come out of the TV when we started this, because it's been 3 years. It's the final season. There's a lot of stuff to wrap up, and unlike a lot of people who maybe have been theorizing and about this final season, I hadn't really given it much thought. I liked all the set dressing. They set us all up for the action to happen. They revisited a few things that I wasn't too excited about or enthusiastic about, like some of the character interactions seemed to be, regressing back to a former state of things. But there was so much new stuff to appreciate, and of course the ending was very exciting. So I thought overall I was pretty impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, and I would agree with you in terms of, I think what makes it more impressive for me is I really wasn't hyped up about this season as well. I remember like the Stranger Things season 2 and 3 trailer, when those came out, I'm like combing through them, like, oh, what's going to happen? It's exciting. But when I did start, I powered through it in like just the next 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. When I saw the trailer, I wasn't really that excited about anything I saw, because it's kind of like with Cobra Kai. When the trailers come out, they begin to all kind of look the same. Like they all say something like, I need you to fight one last time.
Mm-hmm.
There's something like that, and there's a big song number. And yeah, I'm just kind of like, who cares at this point? I don't even remember. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and power through this. So season 4 ended in March of 1986, and then season 5 picks up November 3rd, 1987. So there's a time jump of about a year and a half. Everybody's living under quarantine and in a military occupied area. And then there's the central military occupied area, Mach Z, where you cannot go unless you have clearance. And the Byers family is living with the Wheeler family. Then you got Robin and Steve heading up the SQOWK radio station, which they're using as a front to send each other messages and to keep each other informed about what missions or drops they're going to do inside the Upside Down. Murray is operating as Santa Claus for a Wells Fargo wagon making deliveries. Eleven and Hopper are living and hiding on the outskirts of town, and 11 is in training. And then we've got Holly Wheeler, who is a very important character in this season and has grown up to be a bookworm. So, what did you think of this setup? Did you like where they had everybody lined up at the beginning when it started?
Yeah, I enjoyed how they had the character set up. Like everybody's kind of in their own specific little groups. You got the like
Robin and Steve.
and yeah, Robin and Steve. That when they became a duo, was it season 2? Well, the Starcourt Mall was introduced. Was that 2 or 3?
Season 3.
Season 3. Once they became a duo, it just works. So seeing them together every season, I think is great. I'm glad that they're paired off. Maya Hawke is great. Joe Keery is great. Of course, 11 and Hop, just a father-daughter duo, works out well. You got the original gang. Since 11's kind of doing her own thing, they're kind of back together. You have Max, who of course is in a coma still, so she is. It's almost kind of like reverting back to season 1 in a way. The parents, of course, are involved now. There are other kids involved, but the way they interact is more like it was in season 1. So I enjoy that separation of the characters. Of course, they work together and they're all going to come together in the end. But I like seeing those original groups. The one thing I don't quite understand is the quarantine. Because if you recall, if I remember correctly, at the end of season 4, when the town split open,
right,
Vecna killed Max, and of course 11 brought her back to life, although she was unable to find her mind, so to speak. Like, people were leaving town. And the military let them leave town. Is the quarantine like, if you choose to stay, you're stuck here? Or how does that work? Like, did the quarantine get set up later? Or did they make people come back? That I don't quite understand. Maybe it's like a retcon. They just decided to throw that in there. But
yeah, what I saw is at the end of season 4, a lot of people chose to vacate because they had a big
earthquake, basically.
Yeah, earthquake. The ground is split open. And so a lot of people chose to leave. But then everybody who chose to stay, I guess the military said, if you choose to stay, you're agreeing you're going to live under quarantine. Yeah, that's a great question, because when you think about quarantine, it's usually somebody's ill, or there's something that could contaminate, or there's I guess because there's something dangerous that is unexplored, that people don't understand what it is. And so it's to keep outsiders from coming in. That's going to be on the outside cover thing that they're doing. But as far as the real reason for it, yeah, I'm not sure.
It's also crazy they just covered up all like the ditches with just metal plates.
They made
a
it a giant. They made it a giant sledding track through the town.
Like, they didn't just say, hey, we can just ship in a bunch of dirt and fill them in. No, we're just going to cover them with metal plates. It'll be okay.
That'd be a lot of dirt. They are wanting to explore that area, so they don't want to fill it in. And probably it's a good thing they didn't, because if they filled it in, would the group have the tunnels that they could
Well, yeah, the tunnels are there from season 2, where those tunnels first started to originate. So I think that's just a callback to when they first started exploring those back then, and they're just still there. Because that was when the mind flare was traveling underneath Hawkins with like those roots from the Upside Down. It originates from the power plant or whatever, and that's where that farmer, all his pumpkins were dying, and he wasn't sure, and it's because the mind flare was creating tunnels and infecting the town or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how there's still a group mentality where whenever the Upside Down song plays by Donna Summers, everybody knows it's go time, that they're going to do a crawl, is what they call it. And everybody's got their job, but they've used all the knowledge that they've gained from these other seasons and these other interactions with all this paranormal activity that's been going on to now be able to infiltrate that area in their own way. So I found that kind of intriguing. And the fact that they're using the radio station as this front, using the radio station to send signals, is actually really smart. And with this group, how they've always been using walkie-talkies, basically the radio is a giant walkie-talkie that they can use. All right, so let's go into our characters. I wanted to start with Holly because she's new and she's really important. So this is played by Nell Fisher. Holly's been a character, but she's always been in the background. And now they have this older Holly, and she becomes a person of interest towards Vecna. So what did you think about her character?
I like the arc that she's going on. I like the similarities that she shares with her older brother in terms of being into like D&D and sci-fi. Her favorite book, A Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time.
Which is why they call Henry Mr. Whatsit. So like I enjoy her arc. I was very interested in seeing like where they were taking her character and why she was so important. And it does seem like her and like a bunch of the other kids, there is a plan for them. So I want to see how that is fulfilled, whether she's going to continue to be a part of that plan or whether she gets out and, you know, tries to help the other kids.
Yeah, she's always been kind of just the annoying little kid sister. They ended up borrowing her light bright in last season. But I found it interesting that she was reading that book. And also, you mentioned her imagination. It's slightly different than her brother. Maybe she's not into D&D, but she is into like imaginary worlds. And she dresses with a lot of beads. She likes to bead and decorate herself. Did you ever watch Love on the Spectrum?
No.
No.
I don't watch reality TV.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about though. I know the show, but
yeah. That is one show I do watch. Some people feel like the representation of the neurodivergent community is a little problematic, but it is overall a very positive show about these people that haven't dated much. Anyway, there's this one character that I think her name is Madison, and she is really into, she's an adult, but she's really into dolls, and she wears a lot of beaded jewelry that she makes herself. And Holly kind of reminded me of her. That's how she expresses herself. She seems really quiet. She doesn't really talk much, and I think they're always having to pull her out of her books to be able to go somewhere. I also noticed she had a sort of tumultuous relationship with this Derek kid. She found him to be pretty annoying.
A lot of people seem to have problems with him.
Talk more about Derek later, but she finds him to be quite annoying. So I think she's the type that stays out of the background, stays out of the chaos. She's used to being in the background, and that makes sense for her character because she's had all this drama going on with her siblings, right? With friends going missing, police, people being after her brother and sister. So it makes sense that maybe that's been her response and her role. She's in the family to kind of be the quiet one. How much do you know about Wrinkle in Time? Have you ever read that book?
A Wrinkle in Time?
Yeah.
I never read the book. I did see that movie, what came out 5 years ago. It was awful. But apparently that book is really hard to adapt.
It's a whole series.
Yeah.
By Madeleine L'Engle. But Wrinkle in Time is considered a classic science fiction story, and it involves this wrinkle in time, which they call a tesseract. Obviously, it's not a minor thing that this book is in here. So it could be that the book is, of course, a hint or a tell about how the plot will evolve. What happens? Yeah, what happens in the book is that this girl Meg and her brother go on this rescue mission to save her father, who's been kidnapped by this dark force. What ends up making the difference isn't some special power, it's love. And so I'm interested to see how much of this book is going to bleed into the plot of our final season.
Yeah, I definitely think due to the wormhole nods and the wrinkle in time nods, people are theorizing that there's going to be some type of time travel involved. And if that happens, I'm 1,000% sure Barb is going to be resurrected. Everybody is always sad about how Barb went out because she didn't deserve it. She did nothing wrong. She was just being a good friend. She died. If there is time travel, I can see that happening. It's like stopping the death of Barb and, righting whatever wrongs happened in the past. If time travel happens. If it doesn't happen, she's going to stay dead.
Okay, well, interesting theory, Harrison. Yes, Barb did nothing wrong, but Are we saying that the only people that ever die did something wrong? I don't think that's how life works. I don't
Well,
think how stories work anymore.
okay, it's not that I shouldn't say it's not that Barb did nothing wrong. Barb did nothing. Like how Bob died. Bob was in the action. He
Right.
put himself in a situation to where, yes, he was a hero. He passed away. It's not like Barb was a part of the group. She was just a normal friend. She was hanging out, trying to make sure
Nancy.
Nancy didn't do what, of course, she did. And then she just went out of the pool and got snatched. So it was
Yeah.
sad for her.
It
And
isn't.
like nobody else passed away that way, I don't think. There's like nobody else who was just like a casualty.
When you're saying that, I guess the other thing I'm thinking about is that even
Okay, well,
towards
there were
the
actually
end,
others.
Vecna talks about that these little kids who are easy to manipulate. Barb wasn't that little, but neither was Billy. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but do you feel people are saying if time travel happens, but don't you feel like it kind of already has with with Max's plotline brought in, that she is existing in this plane where she is able to go back to 1959?
Kinda, but those are more like she's traveling through memories. So she's not actually there able to physically interact. She's able to travel through Henry's memories from when he was a child before all the way up until he was experimented on at Hawkins' lab. And so that's what she's able to see. And of course the Upside Down is a snapshot of Hawkins the year that Will was taken.
Right.
Before then, it was just like a vast wasteland when Henry got sent there. It was just some big wasteland. And then we don't exactly know how he was able to take Will or how that happened yet, but that's what created the upside down version of Hawkins, which is perpetually stuck in the past. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how the time aspect works out.
Okay, interesting. I didn't think about the fact that the upside down is stuck in the past. So time doesn't happen in that dimension. I mean, I'm
Not
not
the
saying you're wrong. I'm like trying to wrap
yeah,
my head around it.
not the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like while in the regular world they do stuff, they move, they update the house. If you go in the upside down, like Will's house still looks the same as it did the year he was taken. His fort that he destroyed in the real world is still there in the upside down. So what
Right.
you do in the real world, yeah. So
Right. So I guess theoretically, somebody could go to the house though and build it. Just nobody's done anything in the upside down. So that's why. So I'm not sure if that means that time doesn't exist. But yeah, I mean, the things that happen above ground aren't having an impact on the things below ground.
yeah, like the time is still moving forward there, but since there's like no people there,
Yeah.
everything is just the way it was.
There are
I
people
mean, of course
there.
they built that now because they built that facility, but yeah.
Yeah. That would be interesting to see if people started to build in the upside down and then reconstruct. Who knows? Maybe they'll all be existing in the upside down by the end if the whole world is destroyed. We've talked about Holly. Let's talk about Karen. Kara Buana. What a badass mom. I didn't know she had it in her. I guess we see where Nancy gets it from.
Yeah, this almost makes up for her wanting to cheat on her husband last season or 2 seasons ago. Whenever 2 seasons ago
She
when that
didn't
happened.
go through with it, Harrison.
She didn't go through with it, but she almost did. And all her husband wants to do is work and read the paper. He wants to provide for his family and read the paper.
Yeah.
He should be a little more attentive, yes. And that's all she can say. Hey, be a little more attentive. But he's also brave. We should talk about them as a duo.
Yeah, we should
He
talk
got the
about them
golf
as a
club.
duo, yes.
He got the golf club. He was coming up to check on his wife and daughter. Got injured. Of course, she goes down, tries to protect her daughter. Of course, with a wine bottle, which is that's beautiful poetry. And also gets injured. Yeah, I think that was a good scene for her. The line delivery was a little much, like the pauses, like the stay away from my daughter. I was like, you just say it. You don't have to do the pauses. But yeah.
Yeah, I loved this. And this was my one successful prediction from our discussion. And I was being sarcastic, but I said, "Will Ted Wheeler get off of the lazy boy?" And he did.
Yeah, he got off.
So Joe Crest is the actor's name who plays him. But yeah, he was outside playing golf and came inside and he saw that his wife and daughter were in danger and he tried to defend them. So I was happy about that choice. So he took action. It wasn't successful. Yeah, Karen Wheeler. I'm kind of speechless when I think about her because she gets in front of her daughter and Karen with her wine is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I thought she was going to be successful. The Demogorgon seemed a little in shock that what was happening, and they're recovering in the hospital. So
Yeah. At first, I was like, "Oh wow, they're killing these characters off. That's wild." They didn't, but it was good to think that for a little bit.
yeah. Do you think anything's more going to happen with either one of these two?
No, I think they're in the hospital for the rest of the season. I think they're out of commission. I think they gave them both like a big scene to make it worth paying them to be there this season, and then their part of the show is done. They're out. They also brought back the middle school teacher who we did not see last season, which is a big disappointment to me. He's always been there. They ask him a question and he, tells, "Oh, well, this is how this works." So he was missed last season. I'm glad he's back, of course, because the younger sister is now in his class. It makes sense. It didn't make sense when they were all in high school. So, of course, but yeah, I'm glad he's back as well. I think they're going to try and touch on every character they can, even if it's only for a small scene.
Well, and he's also teaching about wormholes. So the rules of
time travel
require that this is going to come up in the plot somehow. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Max because most of her interactions with a character are with Holly.
I mean, we haven't learned that much about Max. The reveal of her being alive, although technically she's like just a projection that is trapped inside of Vecna's memory scape. I thought that was good. I'm pretty sure she's getting out in part 2. Like she's gonna pop out of her coma. I don't know how yet. Maybe Lucas will get that CD, that tape going again.
What is it you said about the Upside Down? You said it was did you say a print of the day that
a snapshot of the day that Will was taken.
So I would think that if this is a Max in Vecna's memories or Vecna's mind, that she would be like a snapshot. But she seems like she has her own agency and can make her own choices. So it's a little confusing how exactly she's existing and in what way she's existing.
Yeah, it's basically, and I'm not sure if this happened with everybody, but when Vecna was like doing whatever his thing, her mind got absorbed into his mind. So maybe he did that with all the other kids he killed as well, but I've heard it explained this way. She's basically like a cancer in his head, like something that's not supposed to be there that just happened by chance. So if she is able to escape, her mind will go back to her body, which is why, of course, last season when 11 went into her head, there was nothing there. It was just blank because her mind is with Vecna. They're in the Upside Down, or they're in that dimension, but they're on the other side of that wall that I guess Vecna put up. That's really hard to get through. So that's where she is.
Right. But it might also take somebody going into Vecna's mind or his head to be able to find Max. And probably that person would be Will. We knew Max is a big character. They weren't just going to have her be in a coma the whole season. But yeah, this wasn't how I expected to see her. So that was great that she showed up this way. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I expected her to just like be in a coma for part 1 and then to like magically wake up in part 2. But I did not think that this is what happened to her mind. I was very surprised by that. I was thinking for the reveal, the person sending her the notes, in my heart of hearts, I was like, it's Eddie. He's still alive. He's the one that's, going to help her out. I was excited for that reveal, but no, it was Max, and that it was fine.
The only thought I had was that even though Henry, which doesn't make sense now that I think about it, but I was like, well, maybe Henry told her not to leave, but he wanted her to leave so he could punish her. So it's just reverse psychology. Don't go to the woods. Now that you've gone to the woods, you've been a naughty girl, and now I
Mm-hmm.
can do whatever I want to you, and I don't have to keep my promises. I was glad that it was Max. Okay, we're gonna move over to Hopper and 11.
I don't think there was much growth with those characters. They're basically in the same spot.
Yeah.
The fluctuations in her power set between each season, like first two seasons, she's getting stronger and stronger, and then she kind of like plateaued after season 3, and now I feel like she's not doing anything necessarily different with her powers. That she's like jumping and floating and moving stuff, knocking people out. But I don't think for someone who's been training for like a year and a half, you would think she'll reveal that she can do something new now. It's not really that interesting to me.
I agree with you, Harrison. Their relationship that they are having together, this is one of the ones I was talking about that seems like it's stuck in the past because they've returned to their default of arguing about him telling her what to do or him not letting her do what she wants to do and him being aggravated. That part is less interesting. But I feel like her growth, if any, in her powers is that she used to use her powers, but you could always see she was exerting a lot of effort to do it. And now she's gone through this period of training and she's gone through these challenges and the time she spent with Dr. Brenner and the other dude, Paul Reiser. After her time there, she's a lot more confident. So she's able to just flick a wrist and the powers happen now. There's less effort to make it happen. As long as there's not something coming in between her, like there is this hedgehog thing. I saw it like after Luke in Star Wars goes through his training, he's able to do things, come in the room and raise a hand, and because she was taking everybody out pretty easily. She's very confident about it. So it seemed to me her powers had improved, but she doesn't have new powers.
Yeah, but I want to see her do something different. They've shown at least twice she can open portals to the Upside Down. So the fact they need to do this crawl and sneak Hopper in, part of her training should have been, all right, you guys ready to go explore the Upside Down? And she opens a portal because she did it in season 1. It is shown that she did it when she sent Henry there way back when she was like a little kid. And of course, she closed the portal in season 2. So that would be like an interesting way they could have shown her powers evolving this season after training. Because even the Demogorgons, they're just opening portals everywhere now. So I think that would have been a fun way to show her using her powers, is just being able to enter that space whenever she wants.
I think it's necessarily that she can't, but they know that opening a portal has ramifications. Even when they close them, they're never fully closed. There's cracks in the portals. So I don't think they're going around wanting to create portals left and right.
Well, when she can fully close them, that was happening at the Hawkins lab. She was a kid when she did that. She never fully closed that one until the second season, where she actually did fully close that portal. Vecna broke it back open, of course, from the other side. But the one in season 1, when she sent that Demogorgon in the school through the portal, she closed that one. And also, can't humans do it too? Or, because didn't the Russians create a portal to the Upside Down? There's just...
I think they use some high-tech machinery to do that. So then... This was your big prediction, Harrison. Your big, not just your prediction, but your desire. We have Callie. You wanted 8 back in the show, and it happened.
Yes, I jumped out of my seat. I jumped out of my seat when I saw that on the screen.
How did you feel,
so
Harrison?
Happy. Excited. I hopped on Twitter and was like, 8's back, baby. This is great. And I know I don't understand why people didn't care for that episode. I liked it. I love 8's powers. I love that her powers are different from the rest of the psychic kids. And hopefully that makes her important because she can create illusions. Everybody else can just do the whole move things with their mind or whatever. That's fun. I was expecting like all the different kids to have different types of psychic abilities, but I guess they didn't want to follow that thread. I know she was supposed to get her own. The whole point of the episode was they were going to do a spinoff with her character hunting down government people who were involved in capturing those kids. So I guess all that happened off screen now, and they caught her at the end. So we were going to find out how they're probably going to just condense what they were going to do with that show in the flashback to where she tells 11, we were doing this. Unfortunately, to let my friends escape, I had to get captured. And somehow they're using her brain to broadcast a signal that weakens 11. So
they'll probably share with us next part exactly what was going on there. But it's somehow they were either experimenting on her because they were experimenting on the creatures too and doing different things. So they're finding out how these people with powers operate, perhaps to know how to control 11 better. But they also may have been using her to power this thing they were calling the hedgehog. And the hedgehog, it keeps 11 from being able to easily use her powers. I don't know if it makes her powerless, but it fills her with pain so much that she's paralyzed.
And hopefully she's going to break Callie out. See, them two is a duo. You got 11, who, of course, can do the whole move things with her mind and all that. You have Callie, who can create illusions. You have Will now, who can tap into the hive mind. And we'll get to that later, I'm sure. Those three leading a team against Vecna is great. Now, I think with the freeing of Callie, I think they actually have a fighting chance against Vecna.
I wonder what Hopper said to her, because they thought that it was Vecna for some reason. They thought it was going to be Vecna behind the door, and instead it was Callie. So you kind of wonder what Hopper said to her.
Who's this chick?
Yeah.
Because nobody else is
right. I mean, I figure that 11 must have told Hopper about meeting Callie.
About that she met one of her sisters or whatever. Mm-hmm. Of course, Henry / Vecna knew her back when she was a kid at the, what's it called, the Rainbow Room, before she escaped.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were right, Harrison. I was excited to see this. I wasn't as gung-ho about it, but I never was one of those people that was like, I hate this episode. I thought it was a nice little detour. I liked when she and 11 first met and they put their numbers next to each other and said sister, sister. And it was nice for 11 to know she's not the only one.
Yeah, I just think they made the smart move in bringing her back to the show. Even if, of course, her role is different than whatever it was originally going to be, it makes that episode important. If for anybody who's rewatching the show, you'll be like, whatever happened to that chick? Wait till you get to the final season. It makes sense. So, I like I said, I really enjoy her back. And I did notice they had the premiere in Hollywood for Volume 1, and the actress was there. And everybody was like, huh, why is she there? That's interesting. And everybody's like, oh, they just invited everybody who was on the show back. and now we know, like, she is in the show, so that's why she's there. So it's great.
Okay, well, let's move now to our big bad military people. So we have Dr. K, who's played by Linda Hamilton. We have Lieutenant Colonel Sullivan, who's played by Sherman Augustus, and Lieutenant Akers, who's played by Alex Bro.
Every season, they get a celebrity to join the cast from like the 80s. Of course, you have Linda Hamilton. This season, you have Rudy. What's his name? The Hobbit. He was in season 2. Carrie Elwes was in season 3. And who was...
Sean Astin is his name. Bob Newby, yeah.
So they like to bring in these older celebrities to play like... what's his name was in the last season? Freddy Krueger. He showed up as Henry's dad. Mm-hmm. The Mr. Creel. So, like, getting Linda Hamilton in, that's great. Her character seems very mischievous and not quite evil, but definitely not a good person. So I'm enjoying what we're seeing from her. She's willing to sacrifice kids for the betterment of the world. But the other two military guys, I have no idea who these actors are. I don't think that they're doing like a terrible job, but I don't think they're doing a great job either. And you could have easily had two better actors in those roles, two more notable actors, and I think it would have been better.
Well, Sullivan,
like I know, like
Sullivan
last
was
season,
in the last season. He was the guy that was chasing 11.
was he?
Yeah.
See, he was forgettable then because I don't remember him. But my point is, those characters, they could have screen. The guy that played Eddie, he
Joe
of course
Quinn.
was an unknown. Yeah, Joseph Quinn. He was an unknown, but when he came onto the show, he popped. His character popped immediately. It was great casting. Everybody loved him. Dacker Montgomery, when he came on the show, his character popped. Everybody loved him. I don't feel the same pop with these military guys. They just seem like cannon fodder to me. There's nothing exciting about them that makes me like, even though they're bad guys, I'm rooting for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm rooting for Billy. I'm rooting for Eddie. I'm not rooting for these military guys. I was rooting for the one Russian guy with the glasses. You remember him? Alexei. Everybody loved Alexei. Like, I'm not feeling that with these guys at all. They could have died in episode 1 and I would have been happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the credits now. Sherman Augustus, he's the one that plays Sullivan. He's in Into the Badlands, and he's in The Accursed, Digital Man, Bad Guys. You may not remember this, but last season he was chasing 11, and also he was torturing people on the way to find out where the girl was. He was pretty evil. Akers, that's the guy who they catch, and 11's invading his brain from a distance. I thought he was okay. And Linda Hamilton, I mean, it was great to see her. She kind of wasn't evil enough. I mean, she's torturing kids. She's also doing really weird things to the pieces of the creature she's cut off. It was like she was operating on a giant vagina. So I kind of didn't like seeing that. But anybody who is tied down or to a table and you're gonna do experiments on them, it's not a good look. It's gross. So I don't know. I think the world of her. Terminator, she's really cool, but I thought her character, her acting in this show was pretty forgettable. Maybe they'll give her more to do.
Well, she's older now, so.
But yeah, what is this military up to? Dr. K needs the girl, and obviously it's 11. What do you think she wants to do with 11?
I think 11's powerful. They want her as a military asset, just like that's why they wanted all the kids. They want these powerful military assets. 11 and 8 are the only people left. Henry killed the rest of the little kids. So, surprisingly, I'm surprised they just didn't start the program over. And maybe they did, but none of the, whatever other psychic people are out there are not as powerful as 8, Henry, and 11 are. So I guess there's a Stranger Things play that's on Broadway that like fills in a lot of the missing stuff from the show. But I think they just want her as a weapon. They want to militarize the Upside Down, kind of like how the Russians were using it. You can go through the Upside Down and attack an enemy, like exit a portal in another country and, run military operations that way. So I think practically that's what they want to do. They've captured 8. They capture 11, and then with both of them, they think they could probably capture Vecna, and then they've won. If they have all those 3 people under their thumb, who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop America at that point?
I'm not sure they knew about Vecna yet.
Yeah, they knew about Vecna because he is what did he do last season?
I mean, he cursed 4 children, and
yeah, he's the one killing all the kids. Of course, I think Eddie did it.
Yeah,
but
nobody.
I'm pretty sure they know about one. They know about Henry. They know they've spoken to. I think they have enough information on what they're fighting.
100% sure, I agree with that. When the group torched him, he went outside and left that print on the sidewalk, and I think that's why some people thought the military had taken him. And they were keeping him somewhere. 100% sure they know about Vecna. I mean, they know that there are these beings with a lot of power and that they're dangerous. But the reason that Sullivan was tracking 11 as long as he did is he's convinced that 11 is the enemy. and that she's somehow responsible for killing these kids. So he thinks that it's her because he equates her with whatever happened to the Creel family. So I guess they do know about him in some way, but I'm not sure they know. They know now. They know the Demogorgons exist. I mean, I'm not sure if there were any survivors from that operation that are in the military.
Yeah, the one dude who got set on fire. He's still alive.
The dude that got set on fire?
Yeah, the other guy. I can't remember his name. You said his name earlier. But yeah, I think
Akers.
Is it Akers? Yeah. So I think he's still alive. He's badly burnt. Now he's going to be an even meaner menace in volume 2. So,
well, it's interesting that how this plot line is turning out pretty similar to part of the plot of Welcome to Derry, because the military think they can use it as a weapon in nuclear war to be able to defeat Cuba and Russia. So they're wanting to capture Pennywise and use him as a weapon. So it's interesting how plot-wise that's aligning. All right. Well, now we are going to move into Dustin. I feel that with Dustin, he is still in pretty deep mourning about what happened to Eddie. He is taking up this torch now to honor him and honor his memories that maybe the rest of the group is not doing. Dustin seems to be the only one that was really beat up about this, that he was kind of carrying that burden alone. And he's the one still wearing the shirt and poking the bear. And it seems to be like the wrath of the jocks has fallen upon Dustin alone. The group is together, but he's sort of isolated in his own little category. So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about his relationship with Steve, because it seemed to me that he's always done a lot of bickering with Steve, but it felt different. So does he somehow blame Steve for what happened to Eddie?
I don't think is that he blames Steve what happened to Eddie, and I don't necessarily know that. I think he is still grieving what happened to Eddie, but it's more the fact that Eddie's name is not clear. People still think that Eddie did it, but everybody within that group knows it was Vecna. It was not Eddie. Eddie was a geek just like them who just got a bad rap. Didn't have the best life, lived with his uncle, and I think Dustin's kind of picking up that torch. In terms of like the bickering with Steve, like starting in season 2, like Steve was like his big brother. That was the guy. They were the ones that were paired together, and they spent a lot of time together. Now, of course, Steve is mostly paired with Robin, and in the previous season, Dustin began to, attach himself to Eddie. So Eddie kind of took the place that Steve had in his life. But so quickly Eddie was taken away from him, he's still kind of in that mindset of, I'm going to pick up this torch. I'm going to stand for what Eddie stood for. And plus, I know he's innocent, so I don't have a problem doing it. And of course, because of, is it Gatton Matarazzo? His real life physical issues that he has and his stunted growth, it makes it easier in terms of, him playing a character who can still get picked on. Yes, he has grown, but if you look at all his other friends, they have shot up. They're not picking on Lucas. Look at him. He's super tall, strong looking. Clearly they're not towering over him. Mike is shot up the most out of the group. He's the tallest of the bunch. Yes, he's geeky. Nobody's picking on him. Even Will's super tall, has that deep voice now. I think he can still kind of get picked on. He's not as easy of a target as Dustin. So, and of course, nobody else is wearing the Hellfire shirts. Nobody else is poking the bear. So that's why he's getting the brunt of it. And I think there's a little bit of jealousy. The fact that Steve has Robin. Steve's hanging out with her now. Of course, Steve has always been older, but now he's even more older. He's out of school. He has an adult job. So he's kind of lost. He's trying to find his place and where he is in life now.
Yeah. We haven't, one person that wasn't mentioned at all was Susie. So I wonder,
where's Susie? Is he talking to her, or have they broken up? Like it's even back then, that's a long distance relationship between kids.
One of who is a Mormon.
And how, even if there was a way where she's like, I'm going to come visit you, Dusty Pooh. They're in quarantine. She can't come visit them now. So, yeah, that's got to be, hard on them. That's another character. I don't know if I said this in the last one. I thought she was going to somehow show up this season. I hope she still does. I hope they contact her and she helps them out.
I think she still might. But I can see when somebody gets depressed or has a major event happen in their life, a major loss, they often react by pushing people away that care about them. And so that maybe would have happened, and him and Susie are taking a break, or he hasn't been returning her calls or whatnot. But yeah, it was interesting that she didn't come up at all. But it does feel like Dustin has undergone a pretty major personality shift, that he's he was always he's enthusiastic and has like a zest for life. But yeah, but his interactions with Steve, just going back to that, and I know you already said your take, but I feel like it's taken a darker turn, because there was even, he's like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to talk to you. So it's different from the kind of bickering you have with somebody you really like. And he said something about, I can't always be around to solve your problems. And, but yeah, it's taken a darker turn. I guess I wonder if Dustin or Steve, I know we've talked about the fact that Steve might die. I wondered if these two guys are, somehow not going to make it. I don't know. I was worried about Dustin. I tell you, I was worried about Dustin after episode 1, and I did not like how they made us wait a long time to see what happened to him, because I thought he was going to be tied up somewhere in town, left for dead.
Yeah, that was a typical. I think showing that he can actually fight was pretty good. It was more, he was being jumped, so of course he was not going to ultimately win unless he escaped. But showing he got like good hits on all of them, and they actually, in showing their face, that they were also bruised. So I thought it was good to show him stick up for himself, even though he ultimately lost that fight. So even though, yes, he's the one getting the brunt of it, he's getting picked on, he is strong. And if his friends were there, they probably would have won.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But I don't think, personally, I think every main character is making it out of this season alive. I don't think they're going to kill off anyone. I feel like if anyone was going to die, like you would have killed off Mike's parents, then that would have been a shock that they actually did that. But the fact that they survived, I don't think any, I think they've done enough of that. I think you got Barb, you got Bob, you got Billy, all the B's. So is there a B? Eddie, although Eddie might still be alive. We'll see. His name didn't start with a B.
There's no other B's. I do think somebody's going to die. I don't like to think about it. I do wonder though if, and I know it doesn't make sense, like in the real life, does Dustin hold Steve responsible? No. But I think he is really mad, and maybe he's in his head somehow felt that Steve is responsible because Eddie compared himself to Steve and felt like he was lacking. It could be that Dustin thinks, maybe if you weren't so cool, Eddie would have felt like he needed to blame himself, which is kind of sad. But it could be something he's carried around, because when you are hurt, you do sometimes want somebody to point the finger at.
Yeah. We'll see.
Okay. Let's move on to Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan. And I'm very sorry that I have to introduce these as a trio, but I feel like
that's what they are. They're a throuple. It's clearly a throuple. She was with, I just saw this movie, Eternity, with Elizabeth Olsen and what's this, the British guy, and
I know what you're talking about.
Mr. Fantastic. I just saw that. So like you have two guys who are clearly attracted to you. Who do you choose? And of course she was with Steve. In season 1, Jonathan liked her. In season 2, she realized that, she'd rather be friends with Steve. She's going to move on to Jonathan. And then, Steve's still kind of attracted to her. Thinks he's attracted to Robin, trying to move on. Robin's gay. They just become friends. And we have yet to see, Steve get a new girlfriend. Move on to someone else.
He's tried. He's gone on dates. But maybe for him, nobody can compare to Nancy.
I don't think, and Jonathan has that ring. He's clearly intending to propose. I don't know if I want that. I know it's the 80s, it's a small town, but just because you date
shocked me.
Yeah.
Because wasn't this the guy that last season was saying, I don't even know, they were supposed to go to college together, and Jonathan was planning on bailing out. He wasn't going to do it. He was going to do his own thing. So it was a shock to me to hear he was planning to propose.
Yeah, and it's the 80s. It's easy to make money, Joyce had $50,000 in cash she could pull out of the bank easy. But yeah, I don't quite know where they're trying to take that storyline. I don't think I want her to end up with either of those guys. I like the aspect of them, starting as enemies, becoming friends, and kind of having this one girl be their shared connection, and their friendship blossoming from there. But it'd be too cliche for her to end up with one of them. I think there's going to be enough cliche. The only cliche would be Mike and 11 ending up together. That's the only cliche I would be okay with.
How is that a cliche?
This mysterious girl comes to your life when you're a kid, and then you just fall head over heels in love with her, and then you're with her for the rest of your life. That's typical, movie 101. That's
I don't know.
Actually, speaking of 11, we skipped over it. She's finally talking normal. They've gotten rid of the whole she doesn't quite know how to talk.
No, I did not think so. I did not. I thought she was still talking in 3-word sentences.
I'll have to listen in volume 2, but I'm pretty sure she's talking normal now.
Yeah, they were again defaulting to Jonathan and Steve vying for her attention. I thought that was all very dumb. I do personally kind of think Nancy and Steve are cute together, and I wouldn't be upset if they ended up together. I don't think she seems that happy with Jonathan. It would be cool if she ends up saying, I don't want either one of you. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to be my own woman. That's fine. Because, yeah, who wants to sit around and listen to all of that arguing? But I'm trying to think if there was anything else interesting with these 3 characters. I mean, Steve's fighting with Dustin. I do like how he's helping his friend Robin at the radio station. So he has time for that.
So are Nancy and Jonathan still working at the paper? Because Robin and Steve are working at the radio station, where they seem to be the only employees there, which is strange.
I guess they set that up specifically for their operations center.
Even though Steve does work there, aren't his parents rich? Didn't they explain that in season 1? He has
what does that have to do with anything?
Just in terms of what they're doing with their lives now. They're all out of high school. They've been out of high school for at least 2 years now? 3?
Are they supposed to have graduated?
Yeah, the older kids have graduated. They graduated after season 2. But yeah, I don't quite know exactly where they all are in their lives. They're all still living at home with their parents at the minimum. So
I mean, if your parents are rich, you don't have to work. So maybe Steve's just...
Yeah, but Steve's the only person with known rich parents. I guess the Wheelers, clearly that the dad, whatever he does, that they're well off.
How are his parents rich? I can't remember what they do.
I forget if his dad was in banking or something. It was just an offhand statement about how wealthy his family was. You can tell because he has the car. He had the fancy car, and yeah, it hasn't really been touched on as much since season 1. But he was from one of the wealthier families in town.
Okay, so moving on to Robin and Vicky.
Is Vicky her girlfriend?
Yes.
Was she in the last season?
She showed up at the last season when they were making PB&Js at the disaster center.
Yeah, I don't know if we got enough of that explored. I think that is just going to be there as a catalyst for Will to accept himself more, and to try and find someone special in his life eventually, which will probably be someone not from the town because, again, it's the 80s. It makes sense that he fell for his best friend, but of course, that is not who he is going to end up with, or, you know, however his story ends. So,
But yeah, so Vicky works at the hospital. I thought this was cute having Robin show up, and she has been unsuccessful in love so far. So good for her that she found a girlfriend. I thought it was interesting that they were exploring Robin being a mentor to Will. And I like how she's doing it too, because a lot of times when people try to give advice, the usual way to give advice is you're very direct about it and say, "Oh, well, here's what I'm seeing, and you should do this and this and this."
mm-hmm.
And instead, Robin, her strategy is she talks about herself and her own story and uses herself as an example. It's a more indirect approach, also more vulnerable, and for her to be an example for Will. So I thought that was interesting.
Surprising they didn't just, bring her into the group as well, just toss in another character. But they're kind of keeping her off to the side. Maybe she'll have more of a part, moving forward. So,
what we're seeing is that Robin often has to cancel their dates. Luckily, Vicky doesn't seem to be the jealous type. She's upset about the date canceling, but you might think you would be annoyed that you're always canceling, even if it's for your platonic friend. I know I wouldn't like that if my boyfriend was always canceling dates to hang out with his platonic friend. Okay, anything else you want to say about Robin? It's pretty cool she has that job at the radio station. I think that was a good job for her.
Better than Hot Dog Hut.
Hot Dog Hut?
Isn't that where they worked at the mall or the
I know
corn
it was an
dog
ice cream place. Yeah, I thought that was good for her. She's mouthy. She likes talking. She has the gift of gab. All right, let's move on to Lucas. And I have Lucas and Erica together. But Lucas, I really liked what has happened to his character. Of course, he's sad because Max is in a coma. But I liked how that's not his whole personality. He's still involved with the group. And it was nice to see that he's, in the last season, we knew he'd become really athletic. He was on the basketball team. Now he's able to use those physical skills to help his friends. And he's able to do things that they aren't able to do. During the whole operation, he's the one that goes upstairs and baits the Demigorgon. So he has to be fast enough to get away and then jumps over that rug. Maybe nobody else could have done that. So he's using the skills he developed when he was separate from his friends now to help them. He's always been a character that I know when we had the discussion, Daryl was like, he's awesome. You liked him. I was sort of sidelining him, but for me, he's a standout character in this season. I just liked everything he did. And he stood up for Dustin, too.
Yeah, I enjoy that he's still there, waiting on Max to wake up, playing her favorite song. I did find it strange that, we didn't see Max's mom at the hospital at all. Like, thanking Lucas for being there. I thought it would have been important to see her there. I, of course, like that he stood up for Dustin. I hate his haircut. I think they could have done better with his haircut. I don't know what they were thinking. And what's his sister's name again? You just said it. Erica. This is the funniest thing about the show, because even though all the other actors have clearly aged out of the ages they're supposed to be in the show, specifically Erica is a middle schooler being played by like a 20-year-old now? Is that how old she is? And I think that's hilarious. We should look it up. I want to confirm how old she is, and they hide it decently. She can kind of look like a 8th grader or like a 9th grader, but
she's 19.
She's funny. 19. Close enough. So, but she's funny. I love Erica. I love she's always had that sass when she was little, but now it's a little more maniacal.
Mm-hmm.
Like her stabbing her with that needle was like, this is hilarious. This is crazy that she's drugged this entire family and has like no qualms about it at all. It's like, sure, I'll do that, you know. So
Right. And she's not going to help them until they tell her Tina's
yeah,
never going to want to speak to you again. And she's like, "Why didn't you leave with that?"
yeah. And there's also the fact that like she's like, since she found out about everything last season, she's like, yeah, you guys went on a crawl. Why was I not told? Like she wants to be in on the action.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, finally, you guys are including me in the stuff. So I thought that was a joke because she's basically now where they were in season one.
She's pretty amazing. It's not very often that you see a kid that's excited about class. You know what? I'm thinking of School of Rock, the girl in there, Summer.
Yeah,
She's the one that wants all the gold stars. But it's not often that you see a kid that's upset that you interrupted class. So she's really into this science class with the teacher, the science teacher that the kids that the boys liked too, the same teacher. Okay, so we're now on to kind of our last trio here. Mike, Joyce, and Will.
I don't haven't gotten a lot from Mike this season. He's still the leader of the group, is obvious. I do think we've kind of pulled away from him as a sole focus. Joyce is another character I feel that's just stagnant in her portrayal. Been pretty much very similar from season to season. Of course, she's with Hop now, and there's just not a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
I think of this trio, the most growth we've gotten is with Will. This
Okay.
is the most Will has shined since he got more shine in season 4. He was barely there season 1 because, of course, he was the catalyst for everything. He was taken, and of course, they found him at the end. Season 2 was dealing with him, you know, he's back, but he's not quite right still. And then he's just kind of like there in season 3. Didn't do much, but they gave him a little more shine in season 4. He's clearly more, you know, confident in this season. Got a brand new haircut. Thank goodness they got rid of that bowl cut. You know, learning more about himself in terms of his sexuality, his issues with Robin, and just kind of coming into his own power. And I think this is the best portrayal of Will yet, especially with how it ended. Him developing abilities, I think, works for his character, especially with all that he's been through. And I think the creators of the show came out and said like his abilities are different than like Eleven's, because whereas she has the power internally, Will has these powers because of his connection to Vecna. He's basically siphoning off Vecna's powers and using them to his own, you know. So I think there's that conversation he had with Mike where Mike's telling him to be careful, and he's like, "You think I'm going to become some like psychopath killer?" I think that is actually like a possibility that Vecna, if he wants to, can decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to invade your mind and use you for evil. But currently, Vecna does not consider Will a threat. So he's kind of ignoring him, even though Will is snapping into his mind and doing all this stuff. So I did enjoy that. I enjoyed that finale. It was great. I think we're going to get more of him using the Demogorgons to help them out, which we have kind of seen. They can kind of be trained. When Dustin had that baby one in season 2 that he
Dart.
raised, Dart, that was his name.
Mm-hmm.
He had the little
tadpole.
And when he kind of grew into a demodog, the older they get, the harder it is. But clearly, they can, if you want. Either you got to have some kind of psychic power to control them, or if you get them when they're young. So I do think he's going to become the new leader of those creatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, let me go back to Mike real quick because you kind of skipped over him, and fair
Because
enough.
he's a nobody this season. I'm just kidding.
So
Go
I
ahead.
disagree with that. I saw some interesting things I wanted to mention with Mike. His relationship with Eleven has flatlined. That is no longer that interesting, which is kind of sad because it started out as being an important driver for the plot and for Eleven wanting to reconnect with her friends. It was mainly because she missed Mike, and that caused conflict between her and Hopper. because he kept insisting she not reveal that she's still around. What I thought was interesting here is Mike's interaction with Holly, because his sister is having these issues where they think she's talking to an invisible friend.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just seeing it as Holly's weirdness. And in that moment, when she's sitting outside of the office, he sits down and he listens to her and he asks her about it. And, we've seen the thing where older brothers just pick on their sister, or they don't believe them, or they just say, like, you're weird. But I liked how he sat down and listened to her, and it made sense for his character because Mike has seen some crap. He has a girlfriend that has special powers. He's been a good friend to Will, who went through all of this stuff. So he knows that there's things that happen that people can't always explain, and that kids aren't always listened to. And so he doesn't go that route, and instead he chooses to listen to her. So I liked that for his character. I also liked how, when push came to shove, he was a leader to those little kids who they were trying to help escape. He was guiding them and helping them to get away. So he's taking his role that Will told him, Mike, you're the leader, you're the heart. And I feel like he took that to heart, and he knows that it's important that he takes on this leadership role. And Mike's not Mr. Tough Guy. He doesn't have any powers. He's not even like a Lucas that has physical capabilities, but he put himself out there in the front to guide those kids. So those were two things that I thought were very noteworthy about him that I liked.
I can see, to your point. Yes, he did have a great moment with Holly, and I enjoyed how he gave her the little figurine that she now keeps around her neck. I think that was neat. I do think, okay, if anybody were to die this season, if Mike died, I think that would hit harder than anything else. I think because of where we saw him in season 1 and him falling for 11, and if that is like the sad ending, that would be tears.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just for 11, but for Will. Even if
For
he's
Will,
not,
for
yeah,
yes, for everybody, for Holly, for all the friends, for him being the leader, I think that would work as a death. I don't think it'll happen though. But again, nobody's dying.
yeah. With Will, I loved the turnaround to him showing these powers, and this is a theory that I heard that I thought was really cool. That I didn't come up with it, but I'm making it my own at this point. So if you look at the D&D games in the show, each of the times that happens, it's sort of echoed in what happens. So in D&D, the first season, the Demogorgon shows up, and Will has to take an action when they're playing the game. And his friends are telling them to either fireball him or cast protection. And he decides to fireball him, but he needs a roll of 13 or whatever. And in the show, he ends up not rolling high enough, and then he ends up getting taken. And then in season 2, he plays a game where he ends up with a zombie horde, and then you have like all the zombie people that react that way in the town. In season 4, you have the D&D game with Vecna, and they need to roll a 20 to win the game. So there's 11 plus 8 plus 1 is 20. So 11 is 11, 8 is 8, of course. And 1, some people were thinking, and still think, there's a possibility Vecna will be redeemed. That was the thought, that maybe 1 is going to be redeemed, kind of like a Darth Vader story, where if you bring in the information from this play, which is called Stranger Things: The First Shadow, deals with the further backstory about Henry Creel and maybe some things that were done that were so terrible that he became the dark side. But it's also possible that with Will, how he's sort of becoming a second Vecna or an anti-Vecna, it could be that he's the one that we need. He becomes the new one. Because if the Demogorgons can be controlled, is there only room for one person to be the controller? If Will is functioning as a one, maybe there's a power struggle between him and Vecna, and Will ends up serving that same function.
That's interesting. I can see that happening. Basically, he takes all of one's powers. Since their minds are connected, he siphons them off, leaves one slash Vecna slash Henry powerless for the other two to take him out, or for all three of them to take him out.
Yeah.
And then he becomes special, so to speak.
And it could be that he has that moment where he has to, it might be that he holds this power and he can do one of, he can use it for good or he can use it for bad. But we've seen, I think they've set up so much a complementarian thing with these two where like Will was doing the art, right? And the tingles on the back of the neck. And so, yes, he's channeling Vecna's powers somehow, but to what extent? I mean, this could get into, align somehow with Max, but like, to what extent, if you connect with these kids and try to set up this connection, well, is it possible that connection can be turned against you? Yeah, I don't know.
See. I think that sounds plausible. Yeah. Especially with 8.
Yeah, because he's able to do exactly what Vecna does, but with Demogorgons.
Yep.
Okay, so what is up with Vecna? So we had him, he revealed his plan to refashion the world, and to do that he needs 12 children, which he deems the perfect vessels because they're easily shaped and controlled. And he was thinking these kids would be just like Will. Through Will, Vecna found out what was possible when he took the boy as his first vessel in 1983. So what do you think about Vecna's plan? What do you think he's going to do with these 12 children, or try to do?
He's going to do what the military tried to do with him and all the other kids in the Rainbow Room. He's giving them powers and he wants to weaponize them to take over the world, to reinvent the world in his image. These kids remind him of himself when he was young. He was alone, he was weird, he was different, and now he has power. So he's going to give these young kids power, and he is going to use them to create some type of portal, larger portal most likely, I don't know, something that can allow for him to bring more creatures into the real world, or to just to expand the Upside Down, to make it an entire Earth upside down. Who knows? He may see himself as a good guy. Because why create like this perfect dream world for Holly, give her all these fun treats, when he can just like put her in some kind of coma and just wait until he captures the other kids? Why is he being this nice parental type figure? What's the point of that? Like, does she need to willingly come with him? Because I mean, Will didn't willingly go with him. That wasn't necessary for Will when he was younger.
Yeah, he wasn't given that choice though. Maybe if Vecna had brought him to a pretty place and given him the
and
Clash
maybe he did.
records.
Actually, we don't know. We just saw they found Will, strapped up to the wall with one of those things going in his mouth, and they pulled him out. So maybe he was mentally in like a fun place with Vecna, and he just forgot about it. But we also know Vecna like implanted baby Demogorgons inside of him. Clearly he wants to take over the world. And also clearly he had something traumatic happen to him that we have yet to see that makes him afraid to go in that canyon.
Right.
So,
and it's all in that play, apparently, Harrison.
What happened? He got powers? They gave I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, there's a copy of the play on YouTube right now. And it's playing on Broadway in New York, so you can also go there if you prefer. But there is a very detailed synopsis online too. But apparently this is canon. The Duffer Brothers wrote it, and I'm guessing that after the show is over, they'll probably bring a copy for everybody, because it seems to be necessary almost that you understand the materials of this play to get the story. So But yeah, it's called Stranger Things and the First Shadow. So check it out. So how do you think Vecna is going to react to Will's powers? Because he just kind of walked off, so he didn't witness this whole thing.
I think that, again, he thought Will was weak, so easily malleable, doesn't need him anymore. But now that Will has come into his own, I think he's going to try and recruit him and be like, I was wrong about you. Join me. And we can.
And that's what he tried doing with 11, didn't he? He wanted her to join him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so who do you think is the best new character? Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about old Derek. Do you have anything you want to say about Derek?
Derek.
He's the little kid that gets taken.
Oh, yeah, we did say we were going to bring up yeah, he's just a jerk, I guess, but they're trying to redeem him already. I don't know. He was kind of funny, but at the same time, he's
I wish
not
they'd
that
kind of,
interesting to me.
if you brought up the 12 kids that, that Vecna sees them as special, and maybe he's going to try to recreate the Rainbow Room or that Nevada Project, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish they'd kind of shown these, even if it's just for a moment, to kind of show these kids what they have to offer, because it was unclear why were these kids chosen, and maybe they don't have anything, but that makes me think that each of these kids is somehow has a special sensitivity, or why were they the ones that Vecna selected? Because I didn't see anything particularly interesting about poor Derek.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. So best new character, we have Derek, Holly Wheeler, Dr. K, or Akers.
It's Holly.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much hands
easy
down.
one. Yeah.
So what do you think's going to happen moving forward, the next part?
I have no clue where this is going besides potential time travel. I think they're going to get 8 out. I think 8's going to play a big role in the rest of the season. That's where I see it going. Henry did not kill the kids in the Rainbow Room. The Mind Flayer got into Henry's mind and killed the kids. 11 thinks Henry did it or whatever, sends him to the Upside Down, where the Mind Flayer then morphs him into this monster and uses him for evil. So yeah, there could be redemption. What we think Henry was doing is not really something he was doing. Somebody made him do it. So he's going to become a tragic villain, so to speak. And with any tragic villain who's done the horrible things he's done, the only redemption is in death. Darth Vader, he was redeemed, but he had to die. That's how you redeem those types of characters. He may make one sacrificial act, which could be if Mike dies, he brings Mike back to life. If 11 dies, he brings 11 back to life, something of that nature. I think we're going to get a flash forward. Are we talking about just volume 2 or like even including the finale?
2 and 3, yeah.
Yeah, I think there will be a flash forward to, all these kids living normal lives in the future, and what happened in Hawkins will kind of fade into, urban legend. And I think there will be a hint at some type of spin-off show. So
there's already a spin-off show coming. Did you see that? They have a bar.
The cartoon?
Yeah, the animated.
Yeah, no, nobody's watching that. That's a waste of money. That's the Duffer Brothers squeezing Netflix for all they got. First of all, it's animated. It's set after season 1, like in between season 1 and season 2. Totally new voice actors. Like nobody wants to see that. It's a terrible idea. I don't think it's going to do well. We're already at the end of Stranger Things. We're already at the end. People are kind of, once this is done, I don't see anybody wanting to go back to explore these same characters. Now, like a new story set within the world, sure, but not this animation thing they're trying to do.
I don't think you need spin-offs. You know how I feel about that kind of stuff.
It's IP. There has to be spin-offs. You have to milk it as much as you can. But milk it for something good, like a Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. That's a great spin-off. It's a good show. They're doing a Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That looks like that's going to be a good show.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing an animation cartoon show. You round up a bunch of nobodies. You get a hot actor from the 80s, put him in an adult role, and you start over. It's in the same universe, but you got a new cast of characters. You kind of maybe shift it from sci-fi to, I don't know, magic. Take it out of Indiana, put
Or
it in.
you follow some of the other kids from the Rainbow Room.
They all died. We need to go with different kids. They tried to do that with 8. They should have just put that direct to order. They should not have tried to squeeze it in. It should have been a direct to order show, even if it was like 1 or 2 seasons. It would have been neat. But they tried to do it the old way.
Well, I guess, yeah, I don't have a lot of predictions, but obviously, next season's going to start with everybody reacting to the fact that Will has powers. It's going to feel happy for a moment, but there's going to be conflict with it. Either people possibly questioning, okay, what does this mean now that you're connected to Vecna? I mean, they've done some of that before, where there was sort of the suspicion about, which way you're going to go. But I think there's been this thing built up about him and confidence. And so as he's now growing more confident with his abilities, sometimes what comes with that is, with confidence comes pride, or can come an overconfidence, or now that he's revealed himself, that he'll have trouble playing nicely with other people, because it's alienating when you have powers. People think it's great, but there's downsides to it. You feel kind of like a freak. So that's something he's always dealt with. I don't see that he's going to instantly resolve all of those feelings. And if he's supposed to be an equivalent to Henry, what we saw with Henry is, as he grew into his powers, it took a couple of bad things happening before he got turned to the dark side. So I think Will's going to have to make a decision about which way he wants to go, and hopefully the decision will be like The Wrinkle in Time, that it's love that wins the day. Yet the only thing that I wish, how his powers were revealed, the way it was done, was that he, could see that the Demogorgons were about to attack Mike, Lucas, and Robin. I kind of wish the third person had been Dustin instead, because that's their group.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I was kind of thinking about that. I wish the third person had been Dustin, not Robin, even though they established she's become an important person in his life, somebody that he looks up to. But Dustin is in the Upside Down with his group, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have been attacked by Demogorgons.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you wanted to discuss, Harrison, before we close this sucker?
I don't know. Overall, great start to the final season. Great ending to Volume 1. I'm excited for Volume 2 on Christmas Day. And the final episode on New Year's, which... Are they releasing that in theaters? Because it's stupid of them not to. It's over 2 hours long. It's a movie, basically. It's the Stranger Things movie. They could easily crack... If they only put it in the theater for 2 weeks, they could easily crack like $80 million to go into their bank accounts than for Netflix. Like, that should have been the plan all along, is that, hey, we're going to have the episodes on TV. We're going to have the final episode in the theaters for 2 weeks before we drop it on Netflix or whatever. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go buy a ticket, see it in theaters. But excited for it. Excited to see, besides that cartoon that they're making, to see what the Duffer Brothers do next.
Yeah, it looks like Volume 2 is going to have 3 episodes, and the finale is just 1 episode. How did you find the run times?
They had them all listed online. Like, every episode is like over... I think the final episode is like 2 hours, 15 minutes or something like that. But yeah, every episode is... Let's see. Yeah, here's the image. Yeah, so episode 5 is 1 hour and 17 minutes. Episode 6 is 58 minutes. Episode 7 is 1 hour and 37 minutes. And the final episode is 2 hours and 1 minute. So...
Okay. Well, the finale of season 4 was 2.5 hours, so they made it a little shorter at least.
I'm excited. Hopefully, I hope there are more twists and turns along the way. We never saw Eddie's body, so it would be great if Eddie came back. Everybody's assuming the people who think he's coming back think he's going to be some type of like vampire creature because he was attacked by the Demobats in the last season. And like D&D or whatever, like Vecna has a general who's like a vampire or something like that, but the vampire turns on him. So that would be nice.
I mean, what did they do with Eddie's body?
It's still in the Upside Down.
It's
They
still
left
in
it.
the
He was getting
Upside
attacked by
Down.
bats. Yeah.
But I wonder if they buried it or if it's just lying in the middle of, in that lot by the camping park.
Yeah, he would be a if he's dead, his carcass would be in the Upside Down, just like Barb's carcass was in the Upside Down. Or he's a vampire walking around the Upside Down, or a demo vampire, whatever he would be. So, yeah.
Well, do you have anything you want to plug? Let people know how they can find you and anything you have coming up you want to talk about.
Well, of course, you can find me on most of the social medias. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter at Flixfrog. If you want to follow me personally, is at MovieGuru23. I am not on TikTok, so don't try and find me there. I am on Blue Sky, but I barely do anything over there. I post video reviews on YouTube whenever I can. I have kids now, so I'm really behind on getting stuff up. I have a Running Man review coming out soon. I have a Predator Badlands review coming out soon. A Predator Killer of Killer review coming out soon. Wicked for Good and Eternity. So, and of course, my Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1 review. Plus many others I gotta get out. So yeah, at Flixfrog, check me out whenever you can. Give me a like, give me a follow. I'll make it worth your time.
Okay. Yeah, Predator Badlands is an awesome movie. I've been
it's
telling
basically a
people to
video
go
game.
see that one.
But I like what Dan Trachtenberg is doing with that series. I'm excited to see where they go with the next one. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Harrison, for your time and energy for this evening. And hopefully we'll see you all for part 2. Bye,
can't
everybody.
wait. See ya.